Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and hello to everyone. My name is Tengku Mazrina binti Tuku Maiza. My matric ID number is CD20032 and I am the leader for the group 4 for this software engineering project. So I will explain about every part 1, 2, and 3 in this software project. So first I will start with the introduction. So for the case study theme is a government agency website, Majlis Pembandara Kangar, and for the URL you can see here. Here is the URL. Okay, next. I will explain briefly about the introduction of this website. So for this Majlis Pembandara Kangar, or we also call it as MPK, has created a website called Portal Rasmi Majlis Pembandara Kangar since 2017, and it is still used until now. This MPK website has all information that needed by the citizens in Kangar. For example, we can look at the website is the history of MPK, the assessment tags in Kangar, and the destination in Kangar, and other example as. Okay, next. Propose two functional requirements by each of group members. So for my part, I propose the functional requirement in MPK website is authorization levels. Authorization is the function of specifying access rights, privilege to resources, which is related to general information security and computer security, and to access control. The one who has this authority is the Majlis Pembandara Kangar's employees, since they are responsible to manage the website. During operation, the system uses the access control uses rules to decide whether access requests for authenticated Majlis Pembandara Kangar's employees shall be approved or disapproved. For example, we can look here, Majlis Pembandara Kangar's employees who have been identified and given the authority can update every information regarding Kangar, such as the list of business activities and rental sites in Kangar. Okay, we can see here is the example of newsletter site which the authorized MPK employee only need to update every day. So this means that MPK employee is the only one who has the authorization.
Okay. Assalamualaikum, madam. My name is Rubiatun Amira binti Hanisam Amin. My student ID is CD20109 and I'm from group 4 from section 02B. I will present about my behalf of the project. For part 1 is the functional requirement. I choose audit tracking, where it can track feedback and changes made by user or from the people of the MPK organizations. The second one is reporting requirement, where user can issue a report in order to ask about the desired information from the MPK organization websites. The examples are.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Yasmin Ala binti Abdul Fattah. My matric number is CD20023. For the functional requirements, the Majlis Pembandaran Kangar, which is MPK, shall be able to send activation code through an email. The activation code consists of 2 or more sets of characters and numbers separated by the hyphens. This code is essential in order to activate the system so that user can get benefits and advantage such as daily automatic updates about the system. Based on this case study, the client, which is the MPK, has requested the developer teams to develop this website that provided a service that would make it easier for public users. This system shall send an activation code through the email for the user to activate the email to the e-payment method.
Functional requirements, the Majlis Pembandaran Kangar MPK shall be able to have accessibility widget. Based on this case study, MPK wants to create a website that is user-friendly and suitable for everyone, including those with disability. People with disability often use their assistive technologies such as screen reader software, but also another input device instead of mouse and keyboard. This widget offers a broad selection of functions that users can mix and match to meet their individual accessibility needs. This website also accessibility smart, effortless, and effective, as the setting that the user makes will automatically save for the future site visit. Users that have having a tritanopia and other color blindness, they can use contrast plus on the website. Also, dyslexia and convert to legible fonts can be used for those with dyslexia.
Assalamualaikum and good day. My name is Nurul Shifa Natasha binti Muhammad Azhar, matric number CD20094. The functional requirements in Majlis Pembandaran Kangar portal are they provide details and updated news, such as job offers that help users to find a job easily. So any type of user can access there either to find a job or get updates about vacancies in Kangar. Also, the MPK portal provides the MPK address and contact information as permanent on the website at the bottom of every page in the portal. so users could directly contact them anytime if they have a question regarding the Majlis Perbandaran Kanga.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Nur Najha binti Abdul Hamid and my metric number is CD20033. Our project team is Majlis Perbandaran Kanga MPK website. First part is from chapter 3, functional and non-functional. There are two functional requirements. First, MPK website, homepage that lists the purpose of the organization. And goal when visiting their website can be the purpose. Example, MPK can add short list of purpose under the welcome greeting at the homepage. Second, MPK website enable user to search text on the screen.
Hi, my name is Syafiqah Nafahan binti Muhammad Zaki and my metric numbers is CD20081. For the functional requirement, MPK shall be able to have a legal requirement. For example, privacy policies. MPK website should post a privacy policy if it gathers any personal data from the users. This serves as a disclosure that you are collecting data and what data specifically you are collecting. Next is another functional requirement. Another functional requirement for Majlis Perbandaran Kanga MPK website also shall be able to have a data management. Data management is the process of ingesting, storing, organizing, and maintaining the data created and collected by an organization.
Propose one non-functional requirements by each of group members. So for the non-functional requirement, I propose usability requirement. Usability requirements can consider language barriers and localization tasks. Based on the case study, Majlis Perbandaran Kanga website have several languages in it, so that the citizen that doesn't understand of Malay language can understand what is stated on the website. In Majlis Kanga website, we can see there are two languages that is provided in the website, which is Malay and English.
For the non-functional requirement, I chose localizations, where it uses Malaysian time zone. And these functions calculate how much a device or a parts fall in line with the local market context. The example is
The non-functional requirements. This website shall be able to send any type of email within 15 seconds because system performance is the most important quality in non-functional requirements. It also defines how fast a system can respond to a particular user action under a certain workload. When the user is registered for the e-payments method, the system would send an activation code through an email, and response time for the email that need to be sent must take only 50 seconds. The smooth running of system on the website is very important because this site is used by thousands of users out there when it's at the same time.
For non-functional requirements, the MPK portal should improvise the availability so that users could know more information and use the website freely. One of the user interface design principles applied by the MPK website is user familiarity. On the MPK website, all the icons and terms used are familiar and relatable to users' life experiences. Based on the case study, there are many examples of user familiarity interface that we could look up, especially on the main page of the MPK website. For example, a simply designed picture of a bank card is used for online payment bar button.
While non-functional requirement, MPK should have accessibility requirement address the user concern for how easy the system is to be used by people with varying capability. When eliciting accessibility requirement, consider aspect-related standard and specific needs such as visual, hearing, cognitive, and mobility. Example, accessibility by people who are hard of hearing. For important information, the website will provide text alternative for audio content.
Next is non-functional requirement. For non-functional requirement, MPK website shall have a maintainability to make it easy for a system to be supported, changed, enhanced, and restructured over time. Understanding out from how maintainable software needs to be for a certain project is important.
Okay, now for part 2. Identify 6 user interface design principles that have been applied in your case study. Okay, so for this one, the user interface design principle that has been applied in Majlis Perbandaran Kanga website is recoverability. For this design principle, the interface MPK website has included mechanisms to allow users to recover from errors and mistakes. Recoverability means the extent to which a user can reach the intended goal after recognizing an error in the previous interaction. There are 2 types of recovery, which is forward recovery and backward recovery. So for this MPK website, there is only forward recovery. but we don't have backward recovery in this MPK website. In Majlis Pembandar Kangar website, this recoverability can be seen in giving feedback and complaints site. Okay, next, justify your claim for each principle and support them with appropriate screen capture for the website. Okay, so here, for example, based on the case study, recoverability is needed when the citizens want to use the complaint or feedback service. In the photo below, there is a clear step that has been shown which tells the citizen to fill out the empty address field when they forget to fill out it after the citizens press the submit button.
The user interface that I provide is user diversity. User diversity is one of the user interface that been applied to the MPK website. The example is, this function helps the user that in need of the functions in order to understand and read carefully full of the website.
Okay, is consistency. It is important for a website designer to remember the interactions between the human coordinations and the design of the user interface. Style or design of each user interface is important, and maintaining consistency between them is also important. Consistency in user interface design is about making the elements uniform, having them look and also behave in the same way. For example, elements like colors, scroll bars, icons, menu bars, and the graphic elements.
Second part is Chapter 4, User Interface Design, and Chapter 6 API. User Interface Design principle that had been applied in our case study is user guidance. Designers should assume users are unable to understand technical terminology. So on case study, we can see example of user guidance that MPK website use.
Next is user interface design principle that had been applied in our case study. One of the user interface design principle that has been applied in MPK website is minimal surprise. Principle of least surprise is user interface design, programming language design, and our claim to each principle and support them from incorrect screen capture from the website. Based on the case study, among the consistency that can be shown is in the MPK page is a minimal surprise UI element. Next
is identify the 6 types of API that had been used in our case study. One of the type of API that has been used in the case study is private API. A private API is an application programming interface that has its application hosted with in-house developers. So these developers create an API to interface with the application that itself is running in-house for their employer or client. Based on the case study, Majlis Pembandar Kangar employees who have the authorization only to make a change to the website can update any information regarding Kangar quickly, so that the citizens can always know the current information about Kangar, such as what I have told you before, like the assessment test or about the rental sites in Kangar.
One of the APIs are partner APIs. MPK does collaborate with other organizations too, and they all are displayed in the website at the bottom of the website. Usually, the third parties are granted in order to promote each other's.
Other types of application programming interface API in the Majlis Pembandaran Kangar MPK is the Web API. Web API in the computer programming is a set of subroutine definition protocols and tools for building software and application. Some kind of interface or service which has set of functions that programmers or software engineers to access information, specification, features, or data of the application, operating system, or other services. Web API can be accessed by using Hypertext Transfer Protocol, HTTP protocol, platforms such as Windows, Android, iPhone, iPad, or WPF clients.
One of the API that has been used in the case study is Composite API. Rather than multiple round trips to a server, a user can make one API request with a change of cost and receive one response. In other words, Composite API combines different data or service API.
The type of API that had been used in MPK website is public API. There are no restrictions to developers and other users to access this type of API because they are public available. Public API is like an open resource where the user can create their own unique functionality by extending the originating resource. For example, when user click Hubungi Kami on the interface of MPK website, it will link the user to Google Maps. In addition, MPK website also link the user to TBT Pay. Another type of API that might improve MPK website is remote API. Remote API is designed to interact through a communication network. By remote mean that the resource being manipulated by the API are somewhere outside the computer making the request.
There's type of API that have been used in our case study. One the type of API that have been used in case study for MPK website is the Experience API. Next is type of API that might improve our case study functionality and performance.
Now I will explain about a software project in part 3. Okay, identify 6 validation and verification confidence strategy. One of the validation and verification, also known as VMV confidence strategies, is software function. The level of confidence depends on how critical the software is to an organization. The purpose of a software function is to transform inputs into a product, but there are some functions that will receive control flow instead of an input. The example of a function that receives control flow in Majlis Pembandara Kanga website or MPK website is the action to present graphical user information screens, such as in the complaints and feedback side in the MPK website, while functions that do not directly process data may not satisfy computer language specific criteria. They do perform significant actions.
For part 3, VNV confidence strategy. Users' expectations are influenced by the type of software and performance. User might have an unrealistic expectations. MPK websites should give quick response for the user's care line in order to stay ahead from every other's websites, which is similar that the user can get from the internet.
For the verification and validation confidence strategy, is depending on the software function for the system. Is to make sure that the system is fully functional to match the expectation level of the end user. The system shall be function well with no errors or defects in the system. Depends on how critical the software is to an organization. It's supposed to have excellent information architecture since the website provides various of information to the user. It is also critical to a organization organize all the information in the right sections and categories.
The third part is Chapter 7, Software Verification and Validation, and Chapter 8, Software Evaluation. The validation and verification confidence strategy is user expectation. In the case of MPK website, user form expectation based on their experience with similar kind of website. For example, of user expectation is user click and About Us page on the MPK website, they expect to see applicable information on the company or person that authorized the website because they have internalized this through the use of many websites.
Next is validation and verification confidence strategy. One of the validation and verification confidence strategies is marketing environment. The marketing environment includes the internal factors and external factors that surround the business and influence its marketing operation. Ergonomics. The principle of the least surprise states that when two elements of an interface conflicts or ambiguous, that behavior should be that which will least surprise the human users or a programmer at the time that conflicts arise. This principle is really important when creating system.
Okay, next, identify 4 factors influence the software post development. One of the cost factors that influence the software post development is staff skills. Okay, for your information, staff skill is a non-technical factor. Usually, the new maintenance staff often have no experience and have a little domain knowledge about the software maintenance. This problem is worsened if documentation is not maintained or it is not up to date. Based on the case study, the user are Majlis Pembandara Kangar employees and Kangar citizens, and in MPK website, there are a few functions that need to be always up to date, such as the headline of the latest information.
The factor influence the software post development is the ages of the program and structure itself. MPK websites needed to update their system in order to be parallel with the technology.
Factor that influence the software post development is the team stability. The team will influence how the product or software is being developed. It requires a lot of training, understanding for the staffs to adapt in this kind of tasks. Having people who really understand the maintenance and have experience in the field in the team is important so that the stability of the team and maintenance is guaranteed. The maintenance cost will increase too if the staff in the team are frequently being replaced or leaving their jobs. Thank you.
Verification and validation confidence strategies consists of many, and one of them is user expectation. While visiting the MPK website, users feel easy to use as there are no hard instructions and complicated interfaces. Team stability is one of the maintenance cost factors that could influence software post-development. If the stability of the team is ruined, then the MPK website might not perform and behave as it should in long-term conditions.
Next cost factor influence the software post-development is contractual responsibility. The developers of a system may have no contractual responsibility for maintenance, so there is no incentive to design for future change. Example, the contract will also clearly define any payment developer will receive.
Next is factor influence the software post-development. One of the cost factors influence the software post-development is to ensure our apps maintain speed performance.
Okay, next, identify its possible handover problem and explain how it will affect the project entirely. So, in my opinion, one of the handover problems is wrong estimation date to hand over the project to the client. Unexpected situations or unscheduled high priority work may not be considered. Project managers also often fail to let and allow for the full complexity or potential errors and staff ups involved with a project. In the real life, the project could be delayed due to some problematic situations that will push back the date, which lead to unsatisfied feelings to the client, and based on the case study, the client is Majelis Bandara Kanga.
For the handover issues, it is fair to say that one of the greatest challenges during the transfer for information is management, assessment, and validation of the transfer for information and quality. Getting a complete visual image of the taggable assets is also crucial to handle transitions at the operating plant and demonstrating conformity with the regulatory authorities. That's all from me. Thank you.
One of the handover problems is difficulties in tracking changes. Sometimes engineers make changes to the software they work on. If the changes made could not be tracked, the team would not know some changes have been made and sent to the client. The MPK website may have some sensitivity if the changes made did not follow the requirements that were given to the project manager. Thank you.
Insufficient communication is one of the problems to handover project that can be facing. Insufficient communication also will lead to errors and delays. When handing over the project, if development team has insufficient communication, this can lead to MPK not satisfied even if the project was well managed and delivered on time within the budget.
Next is handover problems and how it will affect the project entirely. One of the handover problems is ownership transition. To be more effective, succession planning required foundational groundwork that include preparing the organization for effective leadership transition and ownership transfer.
Okay, next, suggest at least 3 types of API that might improve your case study functionality of performance. Okay, one of the types of API that can improve Majelis Bandara Kanga website is user experience application programming interface, or we also call it as UX APIs. By the definition, UX is a person's perceptions and responses that result from the use or anticipated use of a product, system, or service. UX also means the value that the developer provides to the users, such as Kanga citizens if based on the case study. So UX APIs cover 2 main types of users, which are developers who get to benefit from direct use of APIs and end users who use APIs indirectly through consumer applications. So for this case study, the end user is the Kanga citizen and MPK employee. Okay, based on the case study, for example, users can choose the chatbots to ask about information like list of rental sites, standard or quotations, make a reservation in Kanga, or anything else regarding Kanga. Since it will be available for 24 hours in a day, and it will also provide answers quickly to the users, so they do not have to wait for the day when the administrator is on duty.
Other APIs will make a great feature in the websites in many aspects. The weather APIs is a programming aspect for application that allows you to connect to a wide weather forecast and historical database. As an example, displaying current weather for a specific area and showing a specific region's weather forecast.
Another type might improve APK website is remote application programming interface. Remote APIs is designed to interact through a community network.
Lemma's law that are applicable to the case study in order to embrace program evolution dynamic to the system. The first law is the continuing change. This law means a program that is used in a real-world environment must necessarily change or else become progressively less useful in the environment. For the case study, the functionalities such as the look of the Majlis Perbandaran Kanga websites that full of up-to-date information about Kanga and the changes in font types, size, and color in the MPK website are changed in each successive release of the software. With the continuing change in the MPK website, it will remain useful in the environment as time passes. So, it will allow the user to use the system without problems, and they can obtain and find the information that they need easily. Next is the feedback system law. This law means that evolution processes incorporate multi-agents, multi-loops, and multi-level feedback system, and the development team must track them as feedback system to achieve significant product improvement. For example, the developers need to meet the stakeholders. For this case study, the stakeholders is Majlis Perbandaran Kanga to get the feedback on the software from them and also from the user, which is Kanga people.
Consideration of organization stability is one of the 8 laws and by far the most counterintuitive. The project data so far analyzed indicate that this corresponds to a reasonably constant degree of stability in cooperation. For example, the MPK regulates every response by the user in an instance.
Lastly, laws derived from Lehman law that are applicable to our case study is continuing growth. It's one of the Lehman laws that are applicable to this case study. Continuing growth can be justified as the functional content as a type system must be continually increased to maintain user satisfaction with the system over its lifetime. That's all from me. Thank you.